So it seems like big tech jobs are losing their glamour. We can see in this article over here, the great tech talent exodus. Why are top devs leaving and how to keep them? The tech industry is facing a talent exodus. Top developers and engineers are leaving big tech companies in droves, lured by higher salaries, remote work opportunities, and better work-life balance at startups and smaller firms. So just a few years ago, working for companies like Google, Meta, Amazon used to be the jobs that everyone wanted to work. But now increasingly, from reading online, it seems like the best programmers are actually opting to not work for these companies in favor of other opportunities. And by extension, this similar trend is happening for similar reasons in the entire tech industry as a whole. So in this video, I will tell you what these people have realized that is making them choosing to not work these coveted top tech jobs anymore, and also what these top developers are seemingly choosing to do instead, as well as my personal experience and my personal conclusions on what this means for you if you want to become a software engineer. But to understand what happened to big tech jobs, we first need to understand what are the reasons that made these jobs so popular in the first place. Reason number one is the obvious one: compensation. In the boom years of the tech industry, we had this crazy situation where you could get rich potentially very fast simply by getting a regular job 9 to 5 working for one of these big tech companies because they were paying so much to attract top talent. But now we are seeing these tech companies generally cutting their compensation. And it's not always that obvious that this is happening. The way they're doing this is using some slightly sneaky tactics to reduce the stock compensation while still making it seem like the compensation is as good as it was before. I made a full deep dive on exactly how they're cutting compensation here that you can watch right there. The second reason is quality of life. Now, the thing with most high paying jobs is that they absolutely suck. I remember when I was getting into tech, I was reading some of these Reddit posts where someone was saying
oh, my company is making me work 50 hours a week. This is crazy. This is inhumane. No one should have to work 50 hours a week.
And I was just laughing to myself because as someone who used to work in banking, I know that it's very common for high-paying investment bankers to work 70, 80, up to 100 hours a week. So one of the top reasons I got into tech was that the hours that software engineers have to work to earn these high salaries are super low compared to most other high-paying jobs with similar salaries. But now that is also changing a bit for a couple of reasons, but we'll get back to that in a moment. And the third reason why everyone wanted these jobs was that tech was simply cool. Everyone wanted to work for these cool tech companies with this cool work culture where you could build new, cool, interesting things. And this is also, again, one of the reasons I got into coding. It wasn't just for the money. It was for the money and the fact that I could actually do interesting work that is fulfilling. Because again, the past jobs I worked in banking, consulting, were the most soul-draining work I have ever done. And while that is still true in some extent, and coding is still extremely cool, the reality of a lot of these big tech jobs, and also all software engineering jobs, to be fair, at bigger companies, is that their work is no longer as exciting as it perhaps once was. So these are the main reasons why everyone wanted these jobs. Now let's look at what has actually happened to these reasons and what is actually causing people to no longer want these jobs as much as before. The first reason is that it's now just simply more difficult to get rich in tech. And the reason is, as we discussed, compensation is down. Not only the salaries, but especially the stock compensation that was leading so many engineers to literally become millionaires in just a couple of years, because not only were you getting a lot of stock in these companies, but the stock prices were also growing at unprecedented pace compared to before. Now, not only do you get less pay, less stock compensation, and also the stocks of these companies can simply not possibly rise as fast as they were when these companies were still growing, because the thing with these companies now is that they're already established companies. But the other very crucial factor that is pushing people away from these jobs is that the cost of living in these big cities like San Francisco, New York, like London in Europe, is going higher and higher and higher with inflation, and the cost of living is outpacing the salary growth, which is meaning less pay, less stock compensation, less stock appreciation, and higher costs for the people living in these cities where they have to work these jobs. And when you couple this with the fact that nowadays these companies are actually forcing people to work from the office again, it's now suddenly much more difficult, while of course still not impossible, to get rich by simply working one of these big tech jobs. Second reason is that there are more interesting opportunities elsewhere. So like I said before, in the early days of these big tech companies, they were the cool places to be, where there were building all these cool new things. As an engineer at one of these companies, you could be a part of like changing the world, and there was all this hype around this. But now these companies have become established. They've already built their core products. So what happens naturally at any company in its life cycle when it gets to this stage is that focus goes away from building new things to just maintaining existing features. You go from a fast-growing sort of startup-minded company to a more established like an IBM or an Intel type of company where work becomes more routine. We can see in this article right here from the BBC, big tech jobs have lost their glamour, and people are saying tech was the place to be. Before layoffs, tech companies were renowned for workplace cultures that serviced employees with free benefits and premium amenities in state-of-the-art offices. But now people are saying that I no longer feel inspired or that buzz when I first stepped into the office. So where are people going instead? Well, first of all, startups. Because startups will give you equity, and they will give you more of a stake in actually building the product of the company because it's a more early stage company. You're progressing much faster, you get more responsibility, and therefore probably a more interesting team dynamic as well. And I can say this from personal experience. Having worked as a software engineer at a really big company, the startup work is a million times more interesting, although it's going to be more risky and just for a different type of person. And reason number 4 is quality of life. So I mentioned that the big reason why people were going to tech is the quality of life of being a software engineer. Well, that is also declining for a couple of reasons. First of all, a big perk of working for a big tech company, especially during the pandemic, was remote work. You could earn these high salaries while not having to commute, not having to go to the office. But now that is changing. As the economy is changing, companies now have more leverage and they're able to force employees to go back to the office, which is removing this big perk at a lot of companies. Also, the big amenities and the amazing lifestyle of a software engineer is kind of going away. Because in the past, we were literally in a situation where these companies were hoarding employees just so that their competitors wouldn't hire them. And there were many reports of people literally admitting that they were hired to do absolutely nothing just so that a competitor wouldn't hire them. Now, in this economy, where it's much harder to get into these companies, this is no longer the case. And the companies now have the leverage again. So they don't have to offer as chill of a work-life balance. They don't have to offer these crazy perks anymore. And a big other reason is that the quality of life in these big Western cities like San Francisco, New York is declining quickly. Crime is going up, cost of living, inflation is sky high. The whole of the West is sort of declining right now. So more and more people are actually opting to quit their jobs entirely in the West and move to places like Asia and work remotely or start their business or freelance or something like that. This is exactly what I did as well. A lot of people are realizing that you can make more money, save more money, and have a better life outside of these major Western cities by simply choosing to work remotely, perhaps for a lower gross salary, a much higher savings, and a much higher quality of life. And reason number 4, people are starting their own companies. So the thing is, working a corporate job was never really the way to get rich. Like usually, if you wanna grind away until you're 40, 50 years old at some big company, like you can get rich that way. But if you wanna get rich quickly, always the best way to do that was to start a business. We were just in this sort of anomaly situation where tech was paying so incredibly much and it was so easy to get in, relatively speaking, that a lot of people were simply becoming millionaires simply by working a job. This is not the norm, this is the anomaly. And now that that anomaly has closed down, the people who are really motivated and really capable and really just want to get rich are more and more choosing to just start their own companies rather than working one of these jobs. And of course, running a company is not everyone's cup of tea. This is for different types of people, but often the same types of people who are capable enough to get into one of these companies are also the same types of people who would be capable enough to start and succeed as a business owner. Okay, so let's take a bit of a reality check. This video might seem like negative or like I'm hating on big tech or something like that. First of all, I'm simply reporting what people are reportedly doing, not saying what you should do. You should do whatever is best for you based on your situation, based on your preferences, things like this. But we obviously also still need to understand that tech is still an amazing job. And I always say, out of any job out there, it is probably the best job that you're ever gonna work. But yes, it's now harder to get in. Yes, it's no longer this crazy anomaly situation as it was in the past, but that doesn't mean that it's not a great job. And if you want to get into tech, you really want to become a software engineer, you should still do that, but you should just understand that some of the things that were true a few years ago about big tech or software engineering in general are not necessarily as true anymore as they used to be. To me, software engineering was always a stepping stone. It was the best job I could work to learn amazing skills, to have a kind of lifestyle that would allow me to have the time to build something on the side and eventually turn that into my full-time thing. And that is exactly what I ended up doing. If you want to keep up with new news happening in the tech industry, I recommend you sign up to my free newsletter down below, where I send you weekly in-depth analysis about the tech industry, about how to learn to code, about project ideas, about everything to help you to go from zero to a software engineer, what is happening in the economy that is affecting tech jobs. Again, it's completely free, and when you sign up, you also get access to a bundle of a bunch of my Notion templates that I built over the years to help me learn to code. So check that out down below in the first link in the description. And with that said, if you want to see another video, I'm gonna let YouTube recommend the best one for you right there. So watch this video next, and I'll see you in the next one.